I've got 503, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to Prostate Forum. And our special guest tonight is Jane Shellhouse, who has been with us two or three times before presenting on nutrition. She is with Diet Nutrition Support here in Placentia, California, a suburb of Orange County. Jane is a clinical nutritionist. She is herself a cancer survivor. She has been doing this a number of years. We are good friends. She has helped a lot of our guys here in Prostate Forum. And I'm going to leave it to Jane to kind of talk more about herself and diet nutrition support. And I'm going to mute myself in the meantime.
Okay. Thanks, Neil. Good evening, everybody. As Neil said, I think the first time I spoke to the group, we were live, which was really nice. We've learned how to do this effectively, but it's always nice to be in person, as you very well know. I'd like to, first of all, Neil mentioned something that I share with you. I am a cancer survivor. I was busy running my business back in 2001, and my doctor, just by chance, said, "Have you had your colonoscopy?" Well, I was 54 at the time. And I said, "Well, no." I said, "I know that I should really get that done." She said, "Well, why don't you just go do it?" Well, I went and got a colonoscopy, and they found that I had colon cancer. I didn't have a lot of warning. The body is a great messenger if you pay attention. You all probably know that. And after thinking about it, I realized I did have some symptoms that I didn't gather. And so anyway, I had the colonoscopy and I had the surgery, and everybody said, "Well, now you need to do chemotherapy." And at the time, I was working with an oncologist for a second opinion. Somebody mentioned second opinion out of UCLA. And I would send people there for second opinions about their cancers and treatments and so forth. And I went to him fully expecting him to say, "Well, this is what we think we should do for you." Well, he looked at me, he examined me, and he said, "You don't have any other issues except you had this colon cancer." And it was a 1.5 stage. He said, "I really don't like the treatments that they're doing for chemotherapy treatments for therapy right now." He said, "I'm going to tell you what, I'm not going to suggest anything for you. I give you 75% chance you never get this back. If you get it back, you'll probably kill you." I said, "Thank you," I think, and I left. Now, I'm going to cover something a little bit later, but one of the types of people that I like to work with is Chinese medicine physicians. I knew a good one in Anaheim. And I said to myself, I think Dr. Chi can probably give me some kind of a therapy that will allow me to work, won't knock me out. And so I talked to him. And obviously, he knew how to treat someone who's had colon cancer. And he put me on a therapy. And I knew the diet pretty well. I changed some things. But he gave me, 3 or 4 things to take. And I probably worked with him for about 3 years. That was in 2001. So it's been 23 years. And the only therapy I ever had was what he gave me initially. And then I've been fine ever since. But, a lot of people would do a what if, what if, what if. I just don't live my life that way. And I think that we should not live our lives that way. I really think that once you have something and you have a treatment base and you're moving forward, you can't keep looking back and say, "Well, what if this happens?" Well, what if it happens? You waste a lot of time in your life thinking about that. And I have not wasted any time. I had it. I was done. I went back to work in 3 weeks because I wanted to. I think that I'm not young. As a matter of fact, I've done this work as a nutritionist and a clinical nutritionist for 38 years. Before that, for 10 years, I was an executive producer for what is today ESPN. Before that, I was an English teacher and a drama teacher. So I've done a lot of interesting things, all pulling forward. And I kind of got involved with nutrition because someone said, "Well, you like to teach and help people. Why don't you think about this?" So I bought a business back in 1987, studied nutrition, and 2 years went back and became a clinical nutritionist so I could do more. Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about what I do here, because it might be of interest to you. In the state of California, they do not allow programs such as mine to be covered under insurance unless you have a health medical plan. health medical plans, saving plans seem I can cover those. But I have an opinion about people getting involved in their own health. Because so many times in medicine today, you were diagnosed with something, somebody gives you a pill, and you think you're fine. Well, you're not fine. You have a very passive experience with your own illness. And what I do in my office, I want people to be connected to what they have and learn how to use tools so they can get better with my help on their own. It's very important that people get in touch with themselves. So in my office, one of the things that I do, I work with different kinds of cancer. I work with multiple sclerosis very successfully. If I can get to a person who has multiple sclerosis before they're in a wheelchair or can't walk, I can keep them up and walking because of the diet, the tests that I do to determine what their deficiencies are. And I customize programs to meet those deficiencies. And it's really amazing how well people can get. And people do pay for my services, but they're also have some skin in that game. And when you have skin in the game, it helps a lot. You're motivated, okay? So when people come to me, no matter why they come, I do something called a plethysmography test. A plethysmography test is, in a simplified version, is a body composition that can measure nutritional status, how well you digest your food, how much of it you're getting in absorption. As a result of that, how long your red blood cells are living, because they give you a score for men and for women. And if you are below that, your red blood cells are dying early, and that's prematurely aging you. It measures hydration. It measures body composition. That would measure metabolism. And then it finally takes your weight and tells you what your percentage of fat and lean is. So this is a very interesting assessment, because when people come to me and they have deficits, which I can measure in blood work, I can use this test to see if they're improving or not in their hydration, in their absorption, in their digestion, and in their fat, if their fat's an issue. So I think that we start there, and I do a health assessment so that we can understand where they're coming from. And one of the most important tests that I've been working with for the last 25 years is a test that's done by a lab out of the East called Genova Diagnostics. Some of you may have heard of them. Most MDs don't offer it. They don't understand the workings of it, but it measures deficits and proficiencies in every single thing you can think of, all the biochemistries. And then once I see that, then we put together a customized program for you that involves an actual nutritional supplement in the form of a powder or a pill. And I don't do that to everybody because I don't think everybody needs it, but a lot of people who have cancers, MS, and things like that, or just exhausted all the time, have fatigue all the time, or can't sleep, really is very worthwhile. So I also like to look at the role stress plays, because if you get, let's talk about prostate cancer specifically. Stress is a big player. It could have driven you to it, and then after you realize you have it, it causes a new kind of stress. And then you're looking, and if you live with someone, that stress kind of filters over to them as well. And so together, you're working through this stress. And then, I'm thinking about this. I was in the dentist's office the other day, and I read an article in Time magazine, which maybe some of you saw, that people are getting prostate cancer and breast cancer so much earlier, before 40. Now, what is that about? Because usually prostate cancer, as you might know, people don't get it till they're older, 65, whatever, because of the testosterone issue that a lot of times converts to estrogen. But what we are finding is that probably we have to say, well, what pushed this whole thing forward so rapidly? For example, for breast cancer, 52% women below 40 are getting breast cancer as opposed to 2002. That's amazing. Why? But let's look at prostate cancer. Let's look at the pandemic. For people who were younger, that was quite a situation to put them in. They weren't working. They were home. They were close to each other. The stress level had to be astronomical. They probably drank more, ate the wrong foods just to get through it. And we know that poor food choices, too much alcohol, and stress will put many people right into that prostate cancer picture. I want to share with you, though, something that I thought you might find interesting, because what my goal is to offer a nutritional arm to people who have prostate cancer. Okay. About 14, 15 years ago, it's not the first person I met that had prostate cancer. It's the second person that I work with. The first person was 44 years old, which I was astounded at. But this person, there's an interesting story here. This person was 67 years old at the time, and I had met him at a church, and he became my client. And we started talking, and he said, I've just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. My doctor says I should have surgery pretty quickly. I said, well, what did he do? Of course, he did the Gleason and so forth. And I think his PSA was 6. I said, have you had a second opinion? Is that the only thing that you're doing? He said, well, I don't know what to do. Well, it just so happens that I knew out of Santa Barbara, Ventura, Dr. Bond, which some of you I think probably know, Dr. Mosher. And I really liked their thought process of how doing a color Doppler ultrasound to see where the cancer was. So I suggested that to this person. So he went to see Dr. Bond when Dr. Bond was still in practice. And Dr. Bond looked at him and he says, you do have cancer, but it's completely enclosed inside your capsule. So I'm going to suggest to you that you just wait and come back and see me in 6 months. Well, I took him on for a patient. I have clients. I'm not a doctor, I'm a clinician. He's a client. And I changed his diet, and I'll chat about that in a minute. I'll chat about it now, actually. And you have to decide how much people are willing to do dietarily. But they don't have to eat a lot of red meat. Red meat in this country, unless it's grass-fed and it has no chemicals, it's not good. Europe doesn't buy our red meat. We won't go into that. So we wanted him to do more fish, more chicken, more types of things like that. We know for a fact that beer is a big problem in prostate cancer. The hops in it can be a driving factor. One of my current clients right now, who's 44, has quite a serious prostate problem, cancer problem, but he was an alcoholic. He drank nothing but beer. So he probably pushed himself forward into that. I think that the things that we want to look at is the stress factor, the food factor, what should I do? And I can talk about that. And watch the alcohol, maybe a glass of wine. Getting back to my client, Howard, that's his name. He came home and we talked about the approach and what we were trying to do here. We know certain things, and you probably know them too. I'm sure you've looked into some of this. Some of this stuff is not going to be new to you. Here's what I did for him based on my research. He was already taking cholesterol medication. That was it. But I gave him zinc. I'm sure most of you know about zinc and the role zinc plays. I also know that enormous amounts of people, if I were to do all of your blood tests, I would find that some of you are deficit in vitamin D3. D as in David 3. I test that most of the times with people here because doctors don't test it. They always say, don't take too much vitamin D. Well, we live in the sunshine state, but people aren't slathering up with sunscreen or not going into the sun at all, so they're not going to get any vitamin D. So when I test it, I find them to be deficit. And my clients, and this gentleman also, I put him on 5,000 units of vitamin D3 with K1 and K2. It's very hard to find K1 and K2. Because I'm a clinician, I can get it from vendors that sell and market nutraceuticals. But K1 and K2 are very important because it drives the absorption of the D into the system, okay? And it's a really good preventative. I also suggested to do a very good magnesium glycinate because it's highly absorbent, very fabulous for the heart, overall good for the body. About 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C I gave him. And also I gave him something that you might be familiar with called DIM, D-I-M. DIM is a product that keeps the testosterone from converting to estrogen, and that's a big deal. And one more thing, I gave him something called Oncoplex. Oncoplex was designed, what's in Oncoplex was designed by Johns Hopkins University, and it was purchased exclusively by a company out of Florida called Zymogen. And what it is, a hybrid broccoli that has sulforaphane in it. And that really, really helps very much keep cancer at bay, keep it from spreading. I've used it successfully for quite a few of my cancer people who come to me. I think that, and I like to tell you something else about this person. His PSA scores go up and down, but we know a lot of times the PSA scores isn't cancer. A lot of times it's calcification. But if you don't look, you don't know, and it frightens you. So, I mean, the last time we went to Dr. Mosher, I think his score was 7, and his cancer was smaller. I also gave him something called Immunitix. And I know some of you have questions, where can I get this stuff? I'd be happy to tell you later if you like. It's really good, I mean, for controlling, especially, I know a lot of times there's therapies out there that help reduce testosterone, which isn't very pleasant at all, because technically people need testosterone, but it's what happens to it. In women, when women get breast cancer, what really happens is, if you're interested, and we should be, because the liver is a big player in this, okay? Your liver has to be able to process the estrogen mechanically using something called beta glucuronidase. If genetically this person is not born with the ability to do that, when you have estrogen and it stores in the breast tissue, instead of being cleared out, it becomes something called quinone, which is a known carcinogen. And it's in many women that causes, but that's not the only thing, but in that kind of breast cancer that causes that, because the liver can't clear it. And we know also in prostate cancer that the testosterone in older persons sometimes does get, it converts, it aromatizes to estrogen, and men don't need a lot of estrogen. And it's a problem. So, okay, I don't know where all of you are on your journey. Maybe some of you, I think you have been here before. Some of you may have just been diagnosed. Some of you have been diagnosed, have had surgery and treatment, and are dealing with that. So I guess my question is, what are you doing for yourself about that? What kind of nutrients do you take? What have you had a diet designed for you? The difference between a dietitian, which maybe you went to see one because it was covered under insurance for with your doctor or your hospital. Dietitians have usefulness. They usually are in hospital settings. You go and talk to them. They hand you a piece of paper that says this should work for you, and that's about it. I'm a counselor. And what that means is when people decide to work with me, they can't see me frequently. I get to know them very, very well. I know more about just what their cancer. I know about their lifestyle. I know what stresses them out. I know what they think about. I know a lot about them, because I can't help them if they're not going to share that with me, so that I can help put them on a path where the stress level, or we can learn to control the stress level. I just recently started using a product that's been around for a really long time. It's an Indian Ayurvedic called ashwagandha, which many of you, depending on what you're doing nutritionally, might be aware of. And it's really good calming agent. It helps people sleep. And I've used it primarily for female clients, but it's not for females only, it's for men as well. I think it's a really good product that we should think about. But I wanted to tell you something I want to talk for a moment about foods that, and I mean, I'm sure you've looked this up, but excuse me if you already know this, but foods that are harmful to the prostate: corn oil, because they have very high fat content; white sugar. Most people know of sugar. Lord have mercy, sugar is a pro-inflammatory, big pro-inflammatory. People like it and they crave it. I want to talk about that for just a second. I realize I'm talking about a lot of stuff, but one thing I learned a long time ago when I was trying to get people who were dieting with me to get off of sugar because they were craving it all the time and they were addicted to it, is I learned that L-glutamine is an amino acid, a very, very interesting amino acid. It is one of 10. In order to have a protein like chicken, you have to have 10 amino acids. That makes it a chicken. Whereas if you have tofu, it's only a partial protein. Okay. If you're a vegetarian, you have to marry vegetarian foods together to get a perfect protein so that you have protein efficiency. You have to be able to get protein. If you think that you shouldn't be eating meat or chicken or anything like that, then you better learn how to marry the food together so that you can be a better vegetarian, but more importantly, so that you're getting the protein efficient equivalency that you need to have for your diet. It's very important. So let me get back to this L-glutamine thing though. L-glutamine is one of the 10 amino acids that help to make up protein. But what makes it so amazing, because all amino acids do different things. L-glutamine, when it's taken in by itself as a powder, but if you put it in your protein powder, if you drink protein powder drinks, it is the only amino acid that crosses the blood-brain barrier and affects your dopamine levels. Now, what does that do? The reason we have people who are addicted to anything is because they've turned on and turned up their dopamine level, and without it, the brain just screams. It wants whatever the person's addicted to. If you take L-glutamine once, twice, I've had people take it 4 times a day to get them shut down from what they're craving. And that could be cigarettes, that could be alcohol, that could be sugar, but it shuts it down so that I tell people it's okay to like something. It is not okay to crave it, but that you don't have any control over it. And we know that sugar is not good for any cancer. Cancer cells love sugar. They just love this, eat it up. It makes them very popular. It makes them stronger. So my big suggestion is that if you are having any kind of craving response to sugar or even alcohol, L-glutamine, which you can buy in a powder, pill form, no, powder is much better. It breaks down very well and digests much, much better. So L-glutamine is a big deal as far as I'm concerned when you're trying to learn to control that kind of sugar, starch, simple carbohydrate. The other thing is, and you probably know this too, processed food is not good for us. Processed meat, unfortunately, sodium nitrate in bacon. Now, if you go to Trader Joe's, you can buy bacon that does not have any sodium nitrate in it, so it makes it better if you need to eat that. Soda, oh my. Soda tastes good, carbonated. But the dark sodas you probably want to stay away from. They're not good. They use Coke, by the way, syrup to wash blood off the freeway for the police, which I thought was an interesting thought. But you're probably thinking, well, what about mineral water? It's sparkling, yeah, but it's not quite the same. It's fine. I think mineral water as a water source is a good thing. I tell people to drink it. People say, well, I drink coffee. I said, stop. Water. Mineral water, herbal tea, or water. Water. Water helps keep us hydrated, helps our kidney function. It's really important. Most of you know that. Also, milk. I'm not a real, as a clinical nutritionist, there's a couple of foods I really like to have people not eat very much. People don't like it, but I said, try it. So a lot of times, the whole milk, I don't have them do whole milk. A lot of times I take them off of milk altogether, especially if they have gut issues. But whole milk's not necessarily good for you because it's so high in fat. And hydrogenated products. Now, the manufacturers have done a lot in recent years to move hydrogenation off. peanut butter used to be hydrogenated, mayonnaise used to be hydrogenated. It doesn't need to be hydrogenated. They've taken it out. So you want to be careful with the foods that you eat. Sometimes people say, well, what can I eat? Well, I do design programs for everybody who comes in here. I design breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. And you say, well, how do you do that? Well, remember a couple minutes ago, I was talking about that body composition. Male, female, large frame, small frame, metabolism at rest. I look at all of that and any exercise, if possible. Then I sit down together and I write. I just don't hand them a piece of paper. You can't do that. Everybody's different. I write out something. If I look at their blood work, if I ask for blood work, I either send people to LabCorp, because if you get your own blood work done, depending, like pretty comprehensive blood work, and get it done for $75, and you see a lot. And I look at blood work not to see what I can diagnose, because I can't diagnose. I look to see what the trends are. Where are you trending from an immune system standpoint, from a fatigue standpoint? Why are you this way? So that I can look at food as part of it. But sometimes people are missing vitamin nutrition too. So I make sure that the person has a really, really good balance of protein all day long to complement the carbohydrates that they're eating. I believe people should have protein. I believe they should have salads, yes, if they can. Steamed vegetables, nuts, fruits. I don't like bananas, and I don't like, that's the big one, bananas and sometimes pineapple. You say, well, why not? It's still really high in sugar. It tastes good, but it's really high in sugar. And so I'd like to see when people are eating, if they're eating a carbohydrate meal, they have to have some protein. Because if you don't, your energy, your blood sugar shoots up and comes crashing down because there's not enough protein to substantiate it, to hold it. You want to be able to sustain yourself when you're eating. And if you have a decent breakfast, even if you eat oatmeal, that's not enough. You should put something in there. An egg by the side of it, an egg white by the side of it. I'm not a big bacon fan, but that kind of thing. And lunch, people skip food. They either eat breakfast or they don't eat breakfast, or they eat lunch and they eat dinner. Sometimes they just don't eat enough on a timely basis. And I mean, I'm talking to you about this because that goes for any person, any disease. You have to, and sometimes people live alone and they don't want to do anything for themselves. They don't want to cook. Well, I understand that. Fortunately, there's a lot of good opportunities for new companies that are out there today that are willing to cook for you. You can go to the store and buy healthier food if you know what to buy. And I have all kinds of people here who, some of them love to cook and some of them don't want to cook at all. So I have to think about that so that they'll do the program. And the programs I design are not trendy, so that when they're finished with it, they can take what I taught them with them. They may not be always good once they're not being accountable, but they're going to remember, because they remember how much better they felt when they ate better and better balanced. So I wanted to tell you, I don't know if any of you are interested in knowing what the gentleman that I work with, Dr. Chi, his name is, he's known, and I've gone to his lectures and I've carried his products. And for prostate cancer, he has 4 products he likes to use, and they do different things. And I was very interested in this. He has, and I can send this information to anybody who wants it. And I can give you, you just look up Chi Enterprises in Anaheim. I don't know if he will see patients as opposed to working with clinicians. I don't know that, but you could call and find out. He works with a product that I worked with, because they're for men. This one's for men and women. Myomin. Myomin reduces estrogen and estrone, and in turn reduces the PSA levels, which I thought was very interesting. As you know, part of the whole problem with prostate cancer is the DHA levels go up too high, and it's a product called Prostate that you want to be able to lower the DHA, and you want to be, DHT also is connected to hair loss, which I thought was interesting. So the Prostate is very good for reducing DHT levels, which also helps with prostate cancer. And then he has an interesting product called Angiostop. It works on the heart, but it also works to prevent the growth of prostate cancer. And there's another product that he had called Revivin, which he also manages to shrink the prospect of having the cancer go out of the capsule if it has not. But let's just say that, because I don't know everybody's story here, many of you probably may be past your therapies and so forth, and now you're looking to feel better. And I can't tell you strong enough that I have a test, okay? It's called Nutrivel. And people don't know why they're tired, okay? They think they know why they're tired, but a lot of times they think, well, I'm stressed out, I've had this, I've had that. But they have no idea what deficiencies are making them tired. If you fix their diet, it's going to help. But sometimes they have nutritional deficiencies that the food just isn't going to be enough. So this particular program, as I may have said a few minutes ago, will look at everything, every biochemical thing you have, tell you what's good, what you need help with, what the recommendations are, so that you can have something built just for you that will help you. And there's nothing out there. You can't buy anything anywhere in any store that's like that, because they're looking at the general public, which makes sense. But when you come to someone such as myself, I don't personally do the customization. I work with a clinician who is very good at looking at the tests and then making recommendations as to what we should do powder-wise or pill-wise. But all I'm trying to do tonight is help you understand some of the things that are available. And I might say that Mr. Howard that I talked about, his cancer is almost non-existent. Whatever they're measuring is calcification. And he's thrilled about that because he's done very well. I also might mention on an interesting, more personal note, what did I do with it? Oh, I had something I wanted to check with it. This is Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard and I got married in 2015. So not only did I help him fix his prostate cancer, I helped him with his life. I had to tell you that because it's an interesting story. I hadn't been married for 40 years and I wasn't unhappy that way, but it was just an interesting place for me to meet him in a church I had never been to. And it's just, we struck about a similarity. But he's doing very well today. And I'd like to, at this point, since I've talked quite a bit, if you have questions, I'd like to hear what they are, if you have any questions at all.
I do. Is there any connection between prostate cancer and skim milk?
Let me repeat your question.
Okay.
Is there any correlation between prostate cancer and skim milk? Was that your question?
Yeah, you said that whole milk was not good. So I just wondered about milk without any fat in it, whether that would still be
I think that because I mentioned the fact that I didn't like whole milk because of the fat, skim milk doesn't have any fat, so it would be fine. Have you ever thought about, do you drink it because you like it? Or you drink it because you think you need milk for the calcium?
Well, yeah, I figured it was healthy. I can make smoothies with it. I have it with, some cereal. It appeals to me because I am taking Lipitor, a small dose. And so I try to avoid fatty foods, and that would include whole milk. So yes, I like the calcium, the vitamin D. But I just wondered if maybe I'm doing something to make my prostate cancer worse.
I don't think you're doing anything to make it worse at all. I sometimes will recommend to people almond milk. And sometimes people are open to trying almond milk. We certainly, as males, don't want you to try soy milk. You want to stay away from things like soy and flax seeds also, because they are aggravations to the prostate. As a matter of fact, yes, you're getting calcium and vitamin D from skim milk, but the human being needs about, let me tell you where your vitamin D should be, and you should have your doctor check it for you. He won't mention it most of the time. Your vitamin D is in David's score, vitamin D3. There's other kinds of vitamin D, vitamin D3. for your ages should be about 65 nanograms. That's the measurement we use for vitamin D. And when I check it, and I measure it in blood all the time, it's 20, 17. You have to have vitamin D. It's heart healthy. You live longer if you have enough vitamin D. It also helps your prostate. So I'm suggesting strongly. And usually calcium, you should be able to take a really good calcium. What's a good calcium? Unfortunately, some of your better absorbed calciums also are found from shellfish who are at the bottom of the ocean, which are highly pollutant. I work with a company called Metagenics, and they make a calcium I really like. Because it has something in it called microcrystalline hydroxyapatite. What's that? It is a bone building mechanism. So you're getting calcium and you're getting a bone building mechanism with it. Periodontists like to use it to rebuild jaws and things like that. It's a really good product, and you can buy it from them, and it comes in a capsule. Some of their products don't come in capsule forms, but this particular bone builder is called Bone Builder Forte or Bone Builder Plus. And you say, well, couldn't I get the D in that? Let me tell you something. It is much better for you to take things separately than to combine them. Because when they do ratio balance, you don't get enough. So if you're taking your calcium, you should take 5,000 units of D. You should test it first. But I'm telling you, in the years and years that I've done this, I don't see a lot of vitamin D in people's blood. And vitamin D is really, really important. Other questions?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Yes.
Question on oil. You mentioned corn oil's bad. I typically use olive oil, except there are cases it doesn't have a high enough smoke point for some things. Is canola oil bad?
Very good question. Canola oil is one of the most genetically modified products in the country. The best oil for you to use that works really well for sauteing and frying. If you're going to fry something, use, and that's part of the reason why fried food's bad for you, because the oil is not good for you. Use grapeseed oil. It's right next to the olive oil. Grapeseed oil tastes, it doesn't have a weird taste or anything. It tastes very pleasant. And olive oil, I believe, should only, and avocado oil should only be used for salads. I think it should stay cold pressed. I don't think you should heat it because it changes its good natural state when you heat it.
Okay. So grapeseed is the way to go for cooking.
Yes, it really, really is. It's excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Would anybody like to have a very simple recipe for a dressing for their salad? I made it up.
Okay.
You want to hear it? I'll tell you. I use olive oil, and maybe you haven't heard of this thing, but this is the best thing. There's something called balsamic glaze. You've heard of balsamic vinegar. Well, I don't like that. Balsamic glaze is a little thicker. And I put olive oil and a little balsamic glaze, and a little orange juice, and a little honey in a bowl. And I buy the tubs of the baby green salads. And I'll take a hunk of it and I'll throw it in the bowl. And I literally mix it with my hands. Because again, it's all covered. And it's delicious. It's really good for you. I'll throw some dried cranberries in there, or whatever else I have that I want to throw in there. But the baby greens, I buy the baby greens or organic baby greens at Target, believe it or not. And they stay in that little tub for 3 weeks. And they're really, really good for you. More questions? Yes, sir.
As far as oils, now I have, prostate cancer, small amount, but I also have some heart disease. And so I've been reading about this. And so I instituted a vegan diet with no oil because what I've read is that oil has like 14 to 17% of it's saturated, which is not good for the arteries. So I don't eat oil at all. I know there was a study done that compared the Mediterranean diet to the standard diet, and there was improvement, but still many people died using these oils. So
Are you talking about olive
this
oil?
is so what yeah, olive oil, any oil, but olive oil is 14 to 17% saturated.
Here's the deal. So are you taking a fish oil? Are you getting some oils from something? Because you need to.
No,
Okay, I'm going to
no,
suggest.
no, I eat a vegan diet. The only supplement I take is a vitamin B12. Other than that, I get everything I need from my diet.
So you're thinking, and you've studied how to be a good vegan, so you know how to put the protein equivalency in there?
Excuse me?
You know how to do the protein equivalency with your vegan diet?
The vegan diet, there's plenty of protein with a vegan diet. It's people who say that there's not enough protein, it's a fallacy.
No, I agree with you, but you have to know how to do it. You have to know how to make it happen, is
Yeah,
what I'm
well,
saying.
I eat these different foods, and my weight is less, and I'm hoping that I'll reverse some of my heart disease.
Well, I hope you do too. Do you have high cholesterol?
No.
Good.
I have, well, I'm taking a gazillion medications, but I really didn't have much high cholesterol. I have something which some of you may have heard of. It's lipoprotein A.
Hey, yes.
So I have it's high. That's what I'm thinking that's maybe why I have this, because I've always eaten pretty healthy. Before I did the vegan diet, which I started in May, I had, I ate some fish. I didn't, I haven't, I don't even know what meat tastes like. I had some fish and things like that. And, I guess, when we grew up, most of us are older, we didn't know about, cholesterol and things like that when we were growing up. So
I agree with the important thing, Bob. Do you feel well? Do you feel like you have
my
energy?
name's Ira.
Pardon?
Ira.
Where are you?
Ira is my name.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ira, do you feel well? Do you have
Yeah.
energy throughout the day?
I feel very well. Of course, I have all, there's different medications, which is good for my, makes my heart feel better. And I feel well. And I've always, and the food, I'm exercising and eating these foods.
Well,
And
it sounds to me like you're going to have uh, not luck, but success in reducing your heart and perhaps keeping your prostate cancer at bay because you're working at it. And I have nothing against the vegan diet, just that most people don't know how to do it. And I'm thrilled that you're doing it and that you're feeling well.
right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I had a quick question.
Yes.
My name is Norm, and I live in the San Gabriel Valley, not too far from Pasadena. And I was wondering, do you treat most of your patients in the office or remotely, or how does that normally work? That's my
Everything.
first.
I treat them remotely. I mean, I treated during the pandemic. I was very, very busy. Our office actually was set up. I work in a I don't work for, but I work in an office that also has chiropractors.
Mm-hmm.
We're allowed to treat people because it's a medical condition. And because I was here, I was allowed to treat people. So we masked up and did everything. But I had a large group of people that I Zoomed with them and also just did phone. Yes, I work remotely in answer to your question.
Gotcha. And do you take insurance?
If you had a health medical plan, I could. The state of California does not recognize clinical nutritionist
Mm-hmm.
to be, and the reason they don't, when you go to the MD, it's a box. All the CPT codes are the same for insurance. In clinical nutrition, they don't do it all. We don't all do it the same.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know how to treat us, so they don't give us any CPT codes. But I offer a free consultation where you and I can talk or Zoom, and I don't charge.
Awesome.
And then you can decide if you'd like to work with me.
Perfect. And my last question might be the strangest question you've gotten all night, but I'm going to ask it anyway, mainly because I feel that some of the testing you do with respect to the content in the blood, so on and so forth, might be helpful. Have you ever treated anyone with chronic chronic tinnitus. Mine seemed to happen around the same time, my diagnosis for
Did
my
you say
prostate.
tinnitus?
Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
You mean ringing in the ears?
Yes, uh-huh.
Yes and no. I say yes and no because sometimes it works for, it depends on why they have the tinnitus. Yes, I have. Magnesium is a big deal with tinnitus. And I like to talk about it because sometimes I have good success with it, treating people, and sometimes I don't. So because
Okay.
it's an individual thing as to why they have it to begin with.
Right. And do you do blood tests to determine
Oh yes,
deficiencies for that?
I do. I
Related to that?
do. I do a lot of really, really excellent blood work. When I have people come to me who haven't been to a doctor for a while, I'll say, you can go to your doctor, but he's going to test what he wants to test instead of what I want to test. So I call LabCorp, which I have excuse me, Life Extension, which I have a contract with, and I tell them what I want. I get enormous amounts of blood work for, let's say, $75. That's not a lot of money. Now, if you want to do some other things, we want to look at hormone evaluations and things like that, it's more money. But if you went to an insurance company or you went to a doctor without insurance and got that, it would be thousands of dollars. So it's a really good, yes, I do that. And then I wanted to say to you, because you were interested in this, the nutritional test that I do called Nutrivel, you can look it up. It's Nutreval. And it's huge. It tests and I mean, I really like it. It says, here's what you're proficient in. Here's where we need to work with you. Here's the recommended things you need to do for you. And that's fabulous.
Okay. Maybe we can arrange some sort of consultation sometime within the next couple of weeks so we
Absolutely.
can sit down and
You
talk.
have to make sure that you have, I don't know if it's going to be on the screen or not, but I can give you my my phone number if you like. I'll say it to anybody who wants it right now.
I have
714 292 4518. You can text me or you can call me on that number and I will call you back. When you have a chance, these kinds of groups are very important because you get information. When we could meet together live, it was nice because you meet each other as well. But one of the things that I try to be very positive. I don't have to try. And how do I do that? I know a lot of people like to plug into the news and they listen all day long to the news. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good. I'm not ignorant at all. I just don't. I can't give positive feedback to day in and day out to people if I'm thinking in my mind about things that are going on that I may not agree with, that are terrible. It doesn't mean I don't know what's going on. It's just I find that people do that too much. They need to filter and they need to put positive things in. There's a lot of good stuff that happens every day. We just don't read it because I guess it's a newsworthy. But I really believe that to be inspired and positive, no matter what you have to feed your mind positive things. So I hope that's happening. I had something I was going to share with you if I can find it. Give me 1 minute. I can't find it. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions? Because if not, it's almost 6 and I wanted to not I wanted to make sure that we were fine.
Yes, Jane.
Yes.
Very good presentation. Everything you said, I'm likely to contact you outside of this. But what brought me to listen to a nutritionist in this group is the fact that because my PSA is undetectable and my testosterone is so low, my muscle mass is very low. And I try to exercise by walking, getting cardio, and also using weights and floor exercises. But I can feel my leg muscles weak, and I would like to. I'm thinking perhaps I need some way to build the muscle up without. Okay, when I walk for 20 minutes, I'm out of breath, and I can feel my muscles tight. So um, uh, getting more protein to build my muscles up, in my mind, is what brought me to you. Do you have any comments on that? And I know the time is what it is, but I'd likely contact you separately.
The answer is yes, I can help you with that. Depends, I mean, we have to talk about protein and how much protein would be good for you. Well, the reason why you are struggling, of course, is because your testosterone is low. That doesn't help too much. But there's things that we can do to help you feel better and not feel weak, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make yourself stronger. And yeah, I can help. And if you would like to call, we can talk and decide if you'd like to get together or on the phone, whatever you would like to do.
Okay.
Does that
Good.
help? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a quick, is there a vegan recipe book that you might recommend?
The answer is yes, but I don't have it off the top of my head. Could I send that to you if you send me your
Email?
phone or something?
Oh,
I'll send it.
You want my email?
Yes, could you do that?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Do that.
Jay, quick question. You mentioned a product. You mentioned a product called Prostate or something, reduces
Prostate.
DHT. Prostate reduces DHT
Yes.
levels. Is that dihydrotestosterone? DHT, is that what it stands for?
I meant that was one of the things I mentioned. Another one that does that also, though, is DIM. DIM.
DIM.
It's a very long word. DIM
Okay.
is, I don't know whether you can find it out or not. You might, but I've carried it for years because of what it does. It reduces estrogen, the estrogenic effect, and the testosterone that changes to estrogen.
Okay. So you want to reduce the DHT, which that would then reduce the estrogen.
Yes, yes. And Myomin does that also. It's a Chinese product. You could look up under, you could look up, type in Chi Enterprises of Anaheim, and they may sell online. I don't know. They never did
Okay.
before, but a lot of companies that never did before are doing that more now. So look at that and look up the product DIM and see if you can find it, because DIM is a really good product for this, what we're talking about.
Okay, very good. Quick question.
Anything else?
Soda is bad because of sugar. Is orange juice as bad as soda?
Well, soda is not good for us, not good for our bones at all. It helps promote osteoporosis. It eats the bone away. It's not good. And then diet sodas and things like that are dreadful. They're not good for people who are diabetics at all.
Okay.
Orange
juice?
Pardon?
Orange juice has sugar. Is that bad?
Well, yes. Well, what you should do, if you're going to drink orange juice, don't drink more than 4 ounces. And don't drink it by itself. Drink it with something like with breakfast, where there's a protein, then it doesn't matter.
Okay. Is that 4 ounces per day?
Yeah, 4 ounces per day, but always with a protein. So that, again, what protein does, besides build muscle and other things, keeps your cells going. It also sustains you when you eat things that have sugars in them. I don't mean candy. I mean, like potato and things like that. It helps sustain. It keeps your blood sugar from spiking.
Okay.
Anything else? Oh, you're welcome. Okay. I have a poem that I like to read. Bear with me. An arousal of the senses. Lust for life gone with childhood. Trials have left you hard, bitter, and maybe cynical. What happened to your wanderlust? Nipped in the bud as we traveled down the road of life. Awaken your zest for life. Arouse the spirit of youth. Find that long-lost love that filled you with desire. Close your eyes and breathe life in. Feel hope, anticipation, and remember to forgive. Experience to the full your loved one's touch, or the fuzzy, velvety feel of a newborn skin, or the skin of a loving dog. Taste the sweet lips of a lover. Feel the perfect juices of fresh fruit on your chin. New things every day you are now open to discover. The aroma of everyday life you will discover. Travel the world, even if only in your mind. There you can see sights of old and new. Hear the sounds of native voices. The music that is the square resounds. The essence of life is within your grasp. Sounds all around to awaken and stimulate, to enhance this ride that we're on together, this beautiful, breathtaking, fast ride, taking a big, juicy bite. Touch the skin, soft as a rose petal. Breathe in sweet scent. Sleep comes to you sweetly and deeply. For now, your whole body is alert and aware. Now you are, for the first time, alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Does anybody else have any questions? I thank you all for coming. We look forward to seeing you at our next support group meeting, second Tuesday in March at 5 p.m. Pacific time. As always, if there's something we can do to help, email us at prostateforumoc@gmail.com. In the meantime, have yourself a great rest of the evening.